Oh, bummer. Look at this. One of our prongs snapped off on our plug. Well, clearly you gotta replace it. The only kind of plugs they have are these. Fortunately enough, I have the adapter made that converts from this to this. Now I just happened to look at the label on this thing and it says that this cord is rated for 13 amps. Right now I only have a 3 amp fuse in this, so I can upgrade with a 13 amp fuse, which should be fine. I don't think I need anything bigger than 3 amps for when I'm running power on usually just the computer and maybe one studio light. It's running at a CFL, so it should be fine for now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut this plug off. I'm going to wire it into this British plug here, and then we'll plug this. Well, obviously you can't do it now, but it's the earth pin. You can see the spacing is completely different. So let's talk about these plugs for real quick, because this can handle up to 13 amps. Okay, 13 amps. This cord is a 13 amp cord. So, and I checked the tag on the side here. It says it's rated for 13 amps at 120 volts. Or a little bit more than I thought. I thought it was like a 10 amp. But either way, this is I have a 3 amp fuse in this. So what I could do is I can buy a bigger fuse for it. So with no further ado, let's get this thing wired, and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done with the wiring before we put it back together, so you can see what it looks like. Okay, so we got this plug wired up. Let me show you some introduction to British plugs just so you understand. Here you have your neutral wire. This goes with our wire, which has a rib on it. Your fuse. This is the one that's going to protect you. This is a 3 amp. So I don't have a 7 amp. The neutral wire is longer than the hot wire, so that way if something was to come off loose, that this wire should sacrifice itself before the other wire does. Okay, this one has an internal grip. Some of these plugs have a completely different system than this. So now that's it. So now I'm just going to screw this together, and we'll see if we can test it. So just go ahead, put the Phillips screw in the back. Now you might be saying is, why don't you take the earth pin off? Because if you do, you can't. If you took the earth pin off, you couldn't plug it into the socket. Because I'll show you the screwdriver. But don't ever do this with a real outlet. See, these shutters won't open until the earth pin comes in here. Once the earth pin comes in here, these guys slide open, and then you got access to electricity. So that's what makes it nice. I like the switch on that, the big chunky switch. So this cord is an American cord. This is rated for 20 amps. This is an American plug here. I could have easily used, but I could have easily taken this plug off and put it on the other one, except this is not designed for zip cord, so this would not have been appropriate for zip cord. Alright, so let's go ahead, plug it in, see if it works, and then we'll take it from there. As you can see, it works. This is the studio lamp connected to the white cord, connected to the British adapter, connected to extension lead out here. This has a 3 amp fuse in it, so it will protect the extension cord. The cord is rated for 10 amps or 12 amps, so I'll just go ahead and buy some 10 amp British fuses for it. Plug in, it'll be all set to go. It took me a little bit of time to figure out how to wire it, because the wire was a little heavy. I've only wired like 2 British plugs, and I'm like, this is the second one. So I had to kind of wrap my head around the way the wires go into the races. So what's nice about that plug is the fact that, okay, it has a couple things that makes it nice. If you wonder why the TV gets covered with aluminum foil, it's milers, because we thought we were going to get rained on. This has a switch. This turns it off and protects the circuit. Also prevents vampire loads completely. Wait for that. Plug comes in and out. When I told you, when you plug this in, the earth pin has to go in first. Like that. Okay, so that means that protects the plug from damage. And also, the reason why neutral wire is longer than the live wire is because that way, if the live wire gets ripped out, it's going to break the connection before the neutral does, which is a safety factor. So for right now, this plug was broken. I couldn't use it for crap. It's just snapped off. So what is going to replace it with? You know, better than nothing. I had a whole box of those plugs, so I figured put them to work. That's what I did. So, and also because it does have a fuse inside. In this case, it's a 3 amp fuse. It will protect the cord from overheating. Please understand, American wall circuits, the fuse board fuses protects the wiring within your wall. It does not protect the wiring to your appliances. So if your wiring shorts in your appliance wire is going to catch fire and melt long before the 15-20 amp fuse in the fuse board notices it. But if the wiring is properly fused with a proper rated fuse in the plug, it's gonna blow long before your wire burns up. So that's a safety factor you might want to consider. So I eventually plan to get more of those British plugs. I do have another one I can use as well. So yeah, eventually I will probably get some more American ones. But problem is finding one. American plugs and fuses are hard to find. It's just really, really difficult to find American plugs with a fuse in them. Because the way the Hubel designed their plugs, they just don't have any kind of room for fuses in them. Whereas the British Electrical Code from 1947 specifically was designed for that. Even prior to 1947, most British plugs were fused. Okay, so it was 1947 that the BS1363 was created, and then of course the BS1363a came later. The difference between the 363 and 360a has to do with the length of the prongs having actual electrical contact, because this is something that they want to try doing in American plugs, but unfortunately American plugs, no, because it's not going to work. Okay, wires are too thin. You can see why. If you try to make insulated prongs on this plug here would be too thin to easily stick a type of insulator on it. And most American people don't really give a crap if the plugs stick out of the wall, but that's why we have these guards on them. Some of these early plugs didn't even have that, where you're almost like with your finger like almost right on top of the angry pixie, so without realizing it, you could potentially get yourself a nice good zing zoom every time you try to plug in, and especially if you're hot and sweaty and your finger slips on the guard and all of a sudden, yeah, not fun. Also, the British plug is easy to grab. If you have arthritis in your joints, it's easy to grab these plugs. But the only thing is one thing that the British plug has that I don't like is the fact is that when the plug tends to have the very strong stout pins that will basically likes to land prongs up. And if you happen to be a poor schmuck that happens to step on it, ow! You think Legos are bad? I actually tested it. Don't. It hurts. Okay, but anyway, seriously, the plug is working. Okay. Now, so another thing that makes these plugs even more interesting is that you can see it still works fine on 120. There's no problem with 120. There's no problem with 240 because it's designed for 240. So I definitely think if you're really worried about electrical safety and you're willing to appear to be a little different, go with the British Beans plug in your consumer unit and in your electrical system. They will provide you with a much better and safer approach to electricity than using the American plug. I'm sure these things are cheap, but when they break, they break. Now, since he's only rated for 13 amps, it's not going to be surprising how many people stupidly plug heaters into these things. And one of the arguments is, well, the wiring, it seems like it's pretty heavy. Seems like it's pretty heavy? That doesn't sound very scientific. Seems like it's pretty heavy? And I don't think so. But anyway, that's me. So, yes, I got the plug on. Now, what are we going to do with all these little pieces of clip of videos? I have no idea. Alright, but still, maybe I could just go ahead and glue them all together and then upload them up to disk or YouTube, and there's one video. The only reason I put that plug on the anyway is because, like I said, we need to be able to use it. I can plug the lights in out here, and there's a cat. Because it's still going to be humid here for the next 3 days, and I didn't want to be sitting. Oh, I talked to Ed tonight, by the way. He's doing fine. He's hoping to be home by this weekend. So, they confirmed that the treatment that we were doing was working, but they said it could take months for the treatment to completely be successful. So, it was, he's doing better. He's going to be getting some of the treatments he needs. So, that's about it, I guess. Oh, yeah. Oh, one more thing. We're going to work on trying to get more views out. We have to get more people watching the video. Because, you know, we really so much need your help to get things done here. Okay? Alright, guys. See you tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.